And good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Tuesday, August 18th, 2020, Board of County Commissioners Agenda Setting and Work Session. And by way of introduction, if you want to join us, by the way, before I forget, if you want to join via conference call and listen in, the phone number is 360-252-9020, and the PIN number is 1234. I am the chair of the board, John Hutchings. Vice Chair Commissioner Ty Menser will be late, and Commissioner Gary Edwards is in the house, I believe. We also have County Manager Ramiro Chavez, and I see our Public Health and Social Services Director Shelley Slaughter right in front of me. And Ramiro, who am I missing that I do not see on my screen?
What I see on the screen is Matt Altman, Kurt Harding, Keely Murno, Brian Meyer, Stephen Drew, Tom Wester, and just join us, Karen Weiss and Robin Campbell.
Okay, so it's an all-star cast. So thank you for joining us. The first thing we're going to do, excuse me, is start with the COVID-19 update. Shelley.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
As of yesterday in Washington State, there have been 67,721 confirmed cases of COVID-19, 1,785 deaths. Here in Thurston County, as of yesterday afternoon, our case count stands at 861 confirmed cases of COVID-19, with 72 of those cases occurring in the last week. We've had 11 deaths to date, no deaths in the last week. 58 of those individuals who've tested positive in Thurston County have required hospitalizations. None of those individuals in this last week from Thurston County needed to be hospitalized. 670 people have been released from public health supervision and monitoring, although we continue to have concerns around what the long-term impacts of COVID-19 are from people who have recovered from the disease. We currently have 4 congregate care outbreaks, 1 at an adult family home, 1 at an adult family group living home, and 2 long-term care facilities. An outbreak in a long-term care facility and adult family home, as defined by the state of Washington, has changed to include a definition of 1 resident or 1 staff member constituting an outbreak. So we will likely to continue to report more outbreaks. Our test positivity rate in Thurston County is 4.1%, which makes our case rate in the last, as of today, is 51.4, which is below our target of less than 25 per 100,000. 72.4% of our hospital beds in Thurston County are currently occupied, giving us sufficient surge capacity. 3.5% of those beds are occupied by individuals who are COVID positive from other counties or formerly hospitalized prior to the last week. Our hospitals have adequate supplies of PPE currently, and the disease modeling in Washington State is showing some encouraging signs that our R0 or reproductive rate of the disease is starting to go down, and we're looking for a sustained reduction in the case rate. As of right now, Thurston County is still considered moderate. We encourage people to please get tested as soon as possible if you develop symptoms of COVID-19, and stay home and isolate or quarantine if feeling ill. Continue to wash your hands and please wear those face masks. Any questions?
Yes.
I don't have any questions. I can't see Commissioner Edwards.
Yep, I do.
Go ahead.
First of all, was there a printed material of your brief? I didn't see one in my packet.
No, we did not have one.
You don't have a printed one?
We don't have a report, a weekly report, printed report. We'll make sure that we'll have that next week.
Shelley, how many contract tracers have we hired?
As of to date for contact tracers, we've hired 4. We've been utilizing our Medical Reserve Corps volunteers to help assist in our contact tracing efforts. We plan to continue to recruit more disease investigators and contact tracers. But we currently have adequate number of staff required to meet the current demand.
Okay. And last week I asked the question, what's the percentage of individuals that are coming down with this problem, or at least the fatality side of that problem? And I really didn't get an answer. The reference the doctor gave me back was that we only do that percentage of fatality of those that have contacted the disease. I continue to get asked by citizens, well, what's the real chance I'm going to get this? And I've had different ones pull their calculator out and say, well, if we've had 10 or 12 deaths and the population's 300,000, I mean, we still have like less than 1/10 of 1% or 1/100th of 1% chance that we're going to get this and die from it. Is that right? Or you know, I mean, I don't know what the number is. I've never tried to figure it out, but I guess I'm wondering why we won't talk about that. I'm concerned that we're still scaring the public. This is a very serious issue we're dealing with, but I always want to be truthful with the public. So can you kind of clarify that for me?
I'll try, sir. Last week, Dr. Abdimalik shared the case fatality rate, which is what we look at in public health when determining the risk of death for the rate of COVID-19 infections in our community. I believe what you're looking for is the death rate per population. And we've had 11 deaths in Thurston County since this pandemic began, which makes the death rate per capita well below 1%. You're absolutely correct in that regard, sir.
I couldn't hear what that was. You were cut out pretty bad there.
Yeah, what percent?
I'm so sorry. Well below 1%, with only 11 deaths per our total population.
So that would be the per capita. And when you say well below, I mean, is it 0.5%, 1/10 of a percent, 1/100th of a percent? I mean, I don't want to give the public bum information when I get asked these questions.
I can give you a quick calculation, Commissioner. Give me a minute.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And you're breaking up pretty bad, Shelley. I don't know what's going on there.
I apologize for the poor connection.
Well,
I can make an adjustment.
challenging times, I guess.
So if we have 11 deaths, right, or 15, how many we have?
11.
11, and we have a 290,000 population. That will put us on the death rate per capita of 0.003%.
Okay, and what does that one? So 3
0.3
thousandths, 0.3 thousandths,
0.003%.
0.3 thousandths, I guess, is what that comes out to. Okay.
And again, it's 0.003%.
Yeah. Well, I'm not a mathematician, but I still think that's 0.3 thousandths. So anyway, and we'll have will that report go out that you gave verbally today? Will the public get that? Or they have access to it, I guess? Because
Yes.
it's really reviewed. I know a lot of people that pay attention to your report that comes out every week, and I thank you for doing that. So, okay, well, that's good enough for now on that topic. Thank you very much, Shelley.
Thank you.
Shelley, of the contact tracers that we have since March, how many have we lost? How many have quit, burned out, moved on? They're not interested anymore. How many have we lost? Is it high turnover, or are we losing contact tracers?
I believe we've had a couple that have left employment within Thurston County, but overall, no, we just hired approximately 40 people over the last couple of weeks to add to our COVID-19 response efforts. It is very challenging work, very challenging times for all of our public health professionals. They work in a high stress environment for sure.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. And as Commissioner Edwards says, stated, this is a very serious issue, very serious pandemic. And I just don't want the public to see a 0.003% fatality rate and think, oh, it's not a problem, I'm safe. It's still very, very concerning for all population from birth to old age. So thank you very, very much for that. Now we're moving on. Yes, thank you. Now moving on to homeless strategies. And do we have Keely Marino? And there she is. Yay, I love your glasses.
Oh, thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. Keely Marino with Public Health and Social Services. Just a quick update today. The Regional Housing Council is meeting this Thursday to continue its conversation and discussion around the interlocal agreement. And then addressing some ideas around a work plan for that group. So that will be Thursday. And then yesterday we met with the Homeless Housing Hub, which is one of the subgroups of the Housing Action Team. During the Housing Action Team this month, we discussed prepping for a September meeting where the focus will be around racial equity and housing policies. So we met with the Homeless Housing Hub, which is the homeless response subgroup yesterday, and had a really robust discussion on how we move forward with discussing anti-racist housing policies. What do they look like? What kind of recommendations would we make? And it was actually a really excellent conversation. We're looking forward to moving forward on that, and we'll be producing a survey amongst providers to kind of get some ideas around what people are thinking around policies, suggested policies. Yesterday, I also went on a drive around with Teal Russell, the Olympia homeless coordinator, to look at parking. There's an individual who's interested in starting some kind of network. I don't have a lot of information on that right now, but he was interested enough to do a drive around Olympia. And in driving down Deschutes Parkway, I counted 30 vehicles, which will be displaced as of the 24th for construction on Deschutes Parkway. So there's 30 vehicles on Deschutes and over 430 on Ensign Road with some new vehicles that have shown up. So all told, when we drove through Olympia and hit some of the hot spots of where we know parking to be for folks who are liveaboard, we hit about 100 to 110. Wow. So just a temperature check on the number of vehicles that we're finding parked with liveaboards at this time. And that's all I have right now.
All right, well, I have a question, but I'll turn to Commissioner Edwards first.
No, go ahead, sir. I'm good.
All right, Keely, regarding, it's not really, well, the Deschutes encampment. Mm-hmm. People being removed, not removed, the property owners now looking to donate that, or not donate, this might be the wrong word, but get that into a public conservationist type group. Any update on those campers and where that issue is?
No, I think my updates are the same updates you'd find in the Olympian article. We meet on Wednesdays to discuss these kinds of matters with City of Olympia staff. And so we will be getting an update tomorrow. But otherwise, I know what was written in the Olympian. From what I gathered, it would be upwards of a 6-month process in order for that to occur. And it's just in the discussion phase, as far as I know.
In the meantime, then, are the campers, they remain? Is that in limbo, or are they being displaced?
No, at this point, they remain there.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Nothing further then. Thank you, Keely.
Thank you.
We're going to review the agenda for this afternoon, Tuesday, August 18th, 2020. But I just want to mention, following this morning's work session, hopefully we'll get through this expeditiously, because we have 2 executive sessions following our work session today. So looking at the Tuesday agenda, this afternoon's agenda, we'll call the meeting to order at 2 o'clock, the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Commissioner Edwards. approval of the of today's agenda, and then the board meeting minutes from August 11th, and then an opportunity for the public to address the board. Do we have any
Yes.
anything we can expect?
Yes, sir. This morning I received a phone call from Mr. Jerry Durker. He stated the fact that perhaps he has not been notified of some of the comp plan amendments the county is currently pursuing, in particular to the mineral lands. I suggested to him that that will not be a good expectation to have for the county to inform him specifically as to the actions related to comp plan amendments. I encourage him for him to get online and sign up for him to be added to the distribution list.
Okay.
I don't think he was satisfied with that response. He still believes that we should have reached out specifically to him related to this particular matter, so you may receive some public testimony related to that this afternoon.
All right. And we're still fresh on the heels of an election, and so we'll also give that the direction that no electioneering during public comment is welcome.
That is correct, sir. Thank you.
Commissioner Evers, do you have any idea what might be coming, or Commissioner Menser?
No, sir. It's interesting times.
Yep. Commissioner Menser?
I didn't hear what Ramiro's point was.
Well, this is regarding, this is regarding public testimony, what might be coming today.
Yeah, I stated that perhaps Mr. Jerry Durker will be providing testimony this afternoon. He called me this morning and we had a conversation, and his point was that why the county has not notified him specifically of some of the comp plan amendments the county is pursuing. My suggestion to him was that that will not be a reasonable expectation for the county to have a specific information for him. If he's interested in any type of distribution list, I encourage him to sign up and using our website to be part of any distribution list related to any of the topics related to the comp plan amendment items the CPED staff is pursuing. I don't think he was satisfied with that response. He still believes that we should reach out specifically to him to any specific items. So you might receive public testimony related to that this afternoon.
I have more than 10 4-minute messages from Mr. Durker on a whole variety of subjects. So it might not be limited to just that subject. He's got a whole series of complaints and concerns. So.
Okay. And I will, if there's anything to follow up next week, I will do so based on his testimony.
That takes us to agenda item number 2, the county manager's update.
Yes, I would like to highlight a couple of awards the Public Works Department received, and this is from the Department of Ecology. And it is one is for the Boston Harbor Wastewater Treatment Plant, and this is received the Wastewater Treatment Plant Outstanding Performance Award for 2019, and that is related to the NPDES, which is the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit. And the other award the Public Works received was for the Thomaston Wastewater Treatment Plant, also related to the Wastewater Treatment Plant Outstanding Performance Award for 2019. So I will make sure that I'll highlight these awards this afternoon and congratulate Public Works for the outstanding performance.
Beautiful, well done. Our public works staff are just absolutely stellar. That takes us to consent items, agenda item number 3, and that is financial services, the audit report. Any commissioners have any questions or concerns or polls?
No, sir.
Okay. And then agenda item number 4, Public Works Contract Award for Existing Service Cabinet Alteration Project.
Yeah, you reviewed this item. I guess 2 commissioners reviewed this item last week. No, you, Commissioner Hutchins, you were excused. And this is related to a bid award related to a project for electrical cabinet alterations. On July 30, 2020, the county received 2 bids to construct the existing service cabinets alterations. The bids were received in response to an email advertisement using the Municipal Research and Service Center, MRSC Small Works roster. The low bid was received by Northwest Electric LLC for a low bid of $167,321. The department is requesting for you to consider awarding this bid to Northwest Electric LLC, including additional 10% to cover any unexpected activities during construction for a total aggregate of $184,053. This cost is going to be covered by the road fund. Last week, you had a good conversation, I believe, with Public Works staff related as to the intent of this particular outfit. And Commissioner Edwards follow-up that perhaps we need to have a conversation later on as to how we're going to be able to help some of those private systems into the future when they are not able to financially meet the requirements of maintaining their infrastructure. So that briefing is coming up, and I believe Brian Mayer is available, or Becky is available to answer any additional questions that you may have.
Actually, Matt.
Matt is there.
Matt, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I wanted to follow up. Commissioner Edwards had a few questions for us as to what happens if homeowners associations goes defunct or is no longer existent. What happens to that street lighting system? And one of the reasons why we're doing this project is that we can separate those street lights that are lighting our more arterial and collector roadways, so we can manage the risks. So if for some reason the private lights on the interior of the neighborhood are no longer serviced by the HOA, we will still be able to maintain our lights on those more arterial and collector roadways. Now, whether or not we would go in and take ownership of those lights, I checked back, and that situation has not come up in the recent past. But that would have to be a discussion that we'd have to have at that point in time. The other question that Commissioner Edwards had for us was, or actually maybe it was Commissioner Menser that had the question of delaying the project. And so these bids are actually good for 45 days. I did confirm that with the Washington State WSDOT standard specifications.
Is that it, Matt?
That's it, unless you want more.
No, that's fine. Commissioner Menser, do you have any questions of staff?
No.
No. Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir.
Oh, good. Thank you very much. Thank you, Matt.
Thank
That's
you.
all. That takes us to agenda item number 5, Public Health and Social Services, approving an ILA and a local agreement with the City of Olympia for hygiene services.
Yeah, you also reviewed this item last week, except for you, Commissioner Hutchins, and this is an interlocal agreement with the City of Olympia to provide access to hygiene services. They're available for use for people experiencing homelessness in Thurston County. There are many questions associated with this item last week, and I'm hoping to walk you through some of those questions, I believe. And attached to your packet is an email from Tom Webster. Is trying to address some of those questions that you had. And attached to your packet, it looks like this.
There.
Okay. So first of all, one of the questions was, what is the actual scope of work that the CARES money? Because this is going to be funded by 2 components, the CARES money as well as the EHG, this is the Department of Commerce grant. So the overall scope of work is attached on the document is stated Exhibit A of the interlocal agreement. Commissioner Menser and Commissioner Edwards asked for the agreement. I provided a copy for you last week. It's a very extensive document. I don't know if you had the opportunity to review it, but here's the synopsis of the scope of work for the City of Olympia. And the City of Olympia is to resource and provide chemical potable toilets and place them strategically across the areas where the unsheltered population is not to congregate. Is to provide a hand washing stations on the same locations, provide maintenance and cleaning to ensure they remain TD and to minimize the access of cross-contamination, chances of cross-contamination due to COVID-19. Explore and implement options to expand services provided to include showers and expansion of hygiene access. And all that is included in the scope of work for you again, and the total amount out of the CARES money that you allocated early in the year for the City of Olympia is $51,500. And how we're going to be able, also part of the question was how we're going to be paying for those services. On the back side of the scope of work is stated the contractor, in this case the City of Olympia, shall submit an invoice, which we will be providing a template, and supporting documentation specified on the invoice for reimbursable on a monthly basis. So that's the check and balance I believe the commissioners wanted to see on this contract. On the next page, you also asked for the specific locations in which this particular activities will be located. I'm not going to be reading those locations, but here's all the different locations, a list of the locations City of Olympia is planning to implement the use of this money for hygiene services. And lastly, and this spreadsheet that you have labeled as the OHHP COVID-related contracts, that gives you the overall picture of all the many different contracts we're going to be issuing. Includes the City of Olympia is almost halfway down the list, the hygiene services, which includes the $51,500 from the CARES money, as well as $60,000 from the additional grant from Commerce. And again, for the other contracts, which include Catholic Community Services, CYS, FSC, Interfaith Works, Pipe Safe Place, all that amounts to a total of $2,960,000, I believe, if I'm adding this correctly. No, it's $4,775,735. I think those are mainly the questions as we were tracking last week. And again, Tom is available for you this morning to answer any additional questions you may have related to this particular interlocal agreement with the City of Olympia.
Thank you. I'm going to start with just a couple questions because I wasn't here for this last week. Who is, besides Olympia, who's the contractor?
It is contracting with Island Johnny.
I'm sorry, who?
With Island Johnny's to provide these services.
Okay.
The portable toilets and hand washing stations.
And those are currently deployed downtown and in other locations. And do we have, and I don't know if you know this, Tom or Keely, do we have an estimate of the costs of repair, replacement, whatever that's happened over the last few years with those facilities?
I do not have that information. We could reach out to the City of Olympia. What I have is what was in their budget in terms of their monthly costs to operate them and maintain them. I have not heard, and I don't know if Keely has any information about whether there's been additional repair costs related to those facilities.
And the reason I asked Keely, the reason I asked Keely is because in the scope of work and budget, item G, golf, will replace units as needed to ensure they are functioning and in good repair. And that's if the contractor will do that. I'm just wondering if the other ones have been trashed or damaged in any way and kind of what that repair costs look like. But that's not borne on the county, it's on the contractor. But so go ahead, I cut you off now.
I am just going to repeat, Tom, I'm not aware of how many have had to be replaced, if any, and what those costs are, but we can certainly get that information.
I was just curious. It's not, again, it's not going to impact the county budget, but just a question popped up. Commissioners, any questions of Tom or Keely?
No, you've covered my question, sir.
Okay.
I had a question. So yeah. I reviewed the agreement and I understand its structure a little better. I guess my lingering question is just the financial, like in the agreement, it talks about some up to $150,000 And I wasn't sure where that number came from. And now you're talking about 51,000 and 65,000, which, so I'm just trying to figure out where the cap that's in the contract, did that come from the board allocating that amount in our CARES decision making, or is that coming from a combination? Now you're talking about a combination of a commerce grant and some money allocated through CARES.
So it is a combination of the commerce grant that we initially gave back in March, plus this new CARES money. And then I did include the cap at a higher rate to allow for, if future funding becomes available, if there's a CARES 2 at a future, to allow us to add without having to do a new ILA.
I got you. I just wanted to understand how that was set up. No problem. Thank you.
All right, thank you. That was 5A. We're moving on to 5B. That's a youth marijuana prevention education contract with Choice Regional Health Network.
Yeah, this particular item is for the board to consider, extending the current contract that we have with Choice, the Regional Health Network, to extend the contract from July 1st, 2020 through June 30, 2021, with a maximum consideration of $68,000. This is make a difference. The overall contract is $68,000, but the amendment is only for $25,000 for the remainder of the upcoming year. And just as a matter of background, in the spring of 2019, the Department of Public Health and Social Services began implementing youth marijuana prevention education with Washington State Department of Health. And this has been effective in terms of education related to marijuana impacts on the youth. And again, this contract is to increase the ceiling of the contract to $68,000, but the additional funding is only for $25,000. It's a little bit different in this. It's not a total additional $68,000. It's just the cap increases by $25,000. Chris Hawkins is here to answer any additional questions you may have.
Okay, any questions, commissioners?
No, sir.
No, nor do I. Go ahead, Chris.
Just wanted to quickly address a question that had come up last week from Commissioner Menser. He had asked about whether there was any kind of ending to the funding that we would expect from this particular program, the Youth Marijuana Prevention Education Program. And he was correct that this is due to the initiative, the state initiative 502, that provides a dedicated marijuana account, and how it has been set up here in Washington State as the state law and rules associated with it. In looking through that legislation or the law, which is RCW 69.50, a provision for that dedicated marijuana account does not seem to have a sunset or an end date. It seems to be as long as Initiative 502 is in place, this will continue to provide funding for marijuana education. So I just wanted you to know about that. And also, I did suggest a change to the motion because it does refer to that $68,000 maximum, but I think a more accurate motion would be a maximum program year consideration of $25,000. I don't know if that's possible to do for the motion that you're making this afternoon, but that would be my suggestion.
Romero, what say you on an adjustment of the motion?
We can adjust whatever we can do to clarify the action. We can certainly do that. If Chris, if you can send me the revised language, we'll incorporate it for this afternoon.
Okay, great.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner, still no questions?
No, sir.
Okay.
Thank you,
Chris.
Follow-up, Chris.
You what?
I said thanks for the follow-up.
Okay.
On the question I forgot I had asked.
You're very welcome.
That was 5B. Now 5C, setting a public hearing for HUD annual action plan.
Thank you, sir. And this item was not reviewed last week. And this is a brand new item for you to consider. is for you to consider to set a public hearing for September 1st, 2020 for 3 in the afternoon in this room. And this is related for you to receive public testimony on the amendments of the Community Development Block Grant Program fiscal year 2019. As a matter of background, as you may recall, Thurston County received, as a result of the CARES money, a direct allocation of CDBG money. Again, that is the Community Development Block Grant Program for $717,852. The board had a discussion as to how those funds will be allocated and distributed, and it was an attempt to have a regional discussion, a regional conversation, which a regional group was formed, where Commissioner Hutchins was the representative from the county, and we had representatives from the cities of Olympia, Tumwater, Lacey, as well as the South County. That was a very fruitful conversation, I believe. And the result of that resulted in a collaborative approach as to how that money should be distributed. And one of the main items, in the items, the group decided to bring this matter for final consideration by the board after you get testimony via public hearing, is for about $174,000 will be directed toward food assistance activities that will be conducted by the Thurston County Food Bank, Senior Services of South Sound, Meals on Wheels program, and other like programs. An additional $300,000 will be directed to COVID-19 testing at a fixed or mobile locations that will serve South Thurston County. And that is important. We're working on that as well. The next item was up to $100,000 will be directed to the acquisition or lease for COVID-19 quarantine and isolation sites. That continues to be something that we continue to meet, and the staff is looking as to so many different ways as to how we can meet the demands of isolation and quarantine for those individuals who don't have the option to isolate or quarantine at their own homes. And the remainder, $143,000, is we hold back as administrative because there is a lot of paperwork that we need to meet related to this particular funding. I believe there is opportunities maybe down the road. The additional allocation for CDBG money as a result of the CARES money will come along the way. And at that point, it will be another set of conversations that we'll need to have, whether you'd like to continue to have with the same approach about regional based conversation or not. And again, this item for you is to consider public testimony related to the amendments of the fiscal year 2019 annual action plan of the CDBG money. And that is required before we can allocate those funds. Tom Webster is here to give you additional perspective and correct me if I misstated anything.
Go ahead, Tom.
Ramiro summarized it very well. Happy to answer any questions that folks have.
Okay. Commissioner Edwards, any questions?
No, sir.
Commissioner Menser? No, nor do I. Robin, you popped in. Do you have anything to add? Okay. Then thank you, Tom.
Great,
and,
thank you.
That takes care of 5C. That takes us to agenda item number 6, the county manager's final report with us, talking about our work week and going through our combined calendars, and then we adjourn. A very light agenda for this afternoon compared with where we're going now, and that is the BoCC meeting for August 25th, a week from today. This has twice as many pages to it, so let's bang through this. We'll convene the meeting at 2 p.m. Pledge of Allegiance led by Vice Chair Commissioner Menser. Approval of the minutes for that day and the board meeting minutes from today, and an opportunity for the public to address the board, which might be premature at this point. Do you have anything, Romero?
Not at this point, Commissioner.
Okay. Then the county manager's update, and then we move into consent items A through E. The first one is, go ahead.
I believe Commissioner Menser is scheduled to be out of the office next week. So if there's any items the Commissioner Menser would like to discuss or maybe ask the board to delay, we can probably have that conversation. And
very well.
Any questions the Commissioner Menser may have, hopefully we'll try to answer before that.
Then I will back up and say the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Commissioner Edwards.
Just so, I intend to participate remotely to the agenda setting, and then depending on how we review this today, if there's an item I need to be at the board meeting, I can, but I'm hoping that either the items are not contested or can be delayed, and then I wouldn't have to be at the board meeting, but I'll make that call after today's agenda setting.
Sounds good. Thank you, sir.
Good, thank you. Thank you for the information. So consent item 3A is Emergency Services Performance Grant.
This is for your consideration to receive a grant of $43,778 related to the coronavirus 2019 COVID-19 for public health emergency. Funding will be used to support planning and operations readiness for COVID-19 preparedness and response, development tools and strategies for prevention, preparedness and response. This is to continue the ongoing communications and coordinations with federal, state, and local jurisdictions with its tribal and territorial partners throughout our response. This is to enhance the Emergency Coordination Center, ECC, and also that will provide additional capabilities to continue the conversation and continue the response to this emergency. Again, this item is for you to consider getting a grant from the Emergency Management Performance Grant for $43,778. And I believe Kurt Harding, the Director of Emergency Services, is available to answer any questions.
Thank you for joining us. Kurt, do you have anything to add to Ramiro's presentation?
No, Ramiro did a great job.
As usual. Commissioner Menser, any questions or comments regarding this item?
No.
No. Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Kurt. We're moving on to agenda item 3B, Public Works. Appointment to the Solid Waste Advisory Committee.
Yeah, this is an item that I believe is perhaps pending, depending on the review of the application, which Amy is going to walk you through, is included in your packet. And this is, we receive an application to appoint Mr. Chad Sutter as the recycling industry representative to the Thurston County Solid Waste Advisory Committee for the term of 3 years from August 2020 to August 2023. So you may recall, pursuant to RCW 70.95.165, parenthesis 3, each county is required to establish a local solid waste advisory committee, also known as the SWAC committee, to assist in the development of programs and policies concerning solid waste handling and disposal. The Board of County Commissioners appoints those members to serve on that board, and that is also aligned with Thurston County Code 58.22.030. The makeup of the SWAC committee includes members of the Board of County Commissioners, which one commissioner serves representing the board, one elected officials from each of the jurisdictions, municipalities participating in the current solid waste management plan through their local agreements. We also have representatives from the Port of Olympia, as well as representatives from a private business, waste collection company, and also here, we need to have a representative from the recycling industry as well. And we also have representatives from the agricultural side of the business as well. And again, Amy is going to walk you through the application. If you don't feel comfortable after you review the application, we can certainly remove this item for your next week's agenda. But again, this is for you to consider the appointment of Mr. Chad Sutter to the as a recycling industry representative to the Solid Waste Advisory Committee of Thurston County, and that goes for a 3-year term.
Okay, Commissioner Menser, you okay to keep this on there, or any questions or concerns?
Not at this point, no.
Commissioner Edwards?
I'd just take a moment to point out that that nominee, Chad Sutter, is very active in both recycling and the committee activities. So I believe is an asset.
Right, he's got 13 years experience in recycling industry, and this is just a reappointment, so I'm okay with that remaining as well.
Yeah,
So
if for any reason after you review the application, you'd like to move, you will revisit this item next week, next Tuesday morning, before you consider it.
Okay, thank you. 3C, the assessor's office, reclassification of a position.
Yeah, this is a request from the assessor's office to reclassify a position from appraisal assistant to a senior appraisal. And this has an impact on the budget. It goes from $4,650 a month to $5,935 a month. That will be an increase of $1,285 or 27%. But let me take you back. This is a strategy the assessor has implemented. You may recall when you had the hiring freeze lifted for that position, the assessor has a larger plan. This is the first step as to how he needs to meet the demands of his business. And again, after you will see a couple more steps going, maybe in the next couple of weeks, perhaps a month, as to how he is going to implement the overall strategy, because he would like to bring well-trained appraiser assistants to a higher classification, and that is the demand of his business. And again, at the end of his plan, it will still remain a vacant position, I believe. And the overall impact on the budget is going to be negligible, at least from my perspective. And again, I believe the county assessor has done a great job in assessing the needs of his office, and again, this is the first step to get to the point that he wants to be. I believe he is available to answer any questions that you may have.
I'm going to see if he pops in. Assessor, are you there? Stephen?
Yes, I am. Good morning.
Good morning. Do you have anything to add?
I would just say that this is a series of actions that follow the retirement of a senior appraiser from my office over a month ago. So we continue to be down in FTE, just as we're counting FTEs in the hiring freeze. However, we had two appraiser assistants, which are the trainee position in the appraiser hierarchy, that had worked for the office for more than a year, under more than 1,000 hours of supervision, have passed all of the classes which qualify them as a senior appraiser. And in filling the vacancy of the retired senior appraiser, one of those two equal employees ascended to the higher classification. This reclassification enables both of these employees who have achieved the same level of accomplishment, been certified, to move together to the classification of senior appraiser. So at this point, it's really a timing and fairness issue, and we'd appreciate your action at the earliest possible time. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Commissioner Edwards, any questions?
No, sir.
Commissioner Menser?
No, good to go.
No, I don't have any questions either. Thank you, Assessor Drew. And that takes care of that issue. Now we're moving on to D, Human Resources, coronavirus-related distributions.
See, let me give you a little bit of background, and then I will get to the point of the proposed item before you. Thurston County is an organization. We have what we call 3 participating 457 deferred compensation plans. That is the Mass Mutual, formerly known as Hartford, Nationwide, National Association of Counties, and also the ICMA, which is the Retirement Corporation Component Plan Selected. So this is a benefit to the county employees, where they have the option to contribute outside of the regular PERS retirement system to set aside for future retirement. And this is 100% employee contributions. There is no funding the county provides to those accounts. The coronavirus has obviously put a financial stress, not just on county employees, but across the nation. And also the CARES money allowed for some leniency within the whole context as to how employees can access their own accounts. and perhaps withdraw some money related to this particular emergency. This usually, this is under normal circumstances, this is not allowed because the intent of those funds to serve as a retirement account, and they only can be accessed when an employee leaves the county employment. So this proposal is really has been reviewed by the Thurston County Deferred Compensation Committee and tries to determine whether the distribution will be permitted, and I believe it is. And this, they also allowed a participant to take up to $100,000 withdrawal from the 457 deferred compensation plans. And that will be between January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2020. The income taxes resulting from the distribution of withdrawal will be spread over 3 years, and that is allowed under the CARES money. So this particular proposal is for you to authorize the Director of Human Resources to implement this strategy on an interim basis. And again, this is a benefit to the employees. They can access their own accounts if they need to, and really there has no financial impact to the county. And if Robin would like to add any additional information related to this, I think she's available.
Okay, and Robin, anything to add?
I would just say that there are very specific allowable reasons for employees to be able to tap into their retirement savings under these plans. And the CARES Act made impact from COVID-19 yet another one of those very limited reasons to withdraw money. This is a benefit to employees who have set savings aside to be able to access them now.
Okay. Commissioner Menser, any questions? Okay, Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, just a couple questions. Have we had an incident that developed that brought this on, or is this kind of a industry standard, if you will?
Well, I personally received an email from an employee asking the opportunity to access those funds. And the CARES money just give an additional option as to how they can access it to the emergency. So I believe there is a need for employees at this point to access their own money. This is just an option as to how they can access that.
And then just one quick follow-up would be, did we get adequate legal review and all that? We're on solid ground and all that. That's my only concern.
I believe that is the case, sir.
So there was a legal review. Jane Futterman is the attorney that advises this committee. The request that Romero received is a completely different subject. It's not related to COVID, and there have not been any requests that are COVID related yet. But the general consensus is that people who are offered deferred comp should have this option available to them. So this is a preemptive action to ensure that someone who needs the money is able to have access to it.
And again, this is for a very small window for those employees who would like to access this. This is only from January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2020. So in reality, will be for the next 4 months, anybody can access their own accounts related to this option of COVID-19.
Right, and they need to be able to show that they've actually been impacted by COVID. It's not just, because we've got a pandemic, come get your money.
Yeah.
They got to be able to show impact.
Any other questions, Commissioner Edwards?
Commissioner Edwards?
No? I'll move on then.
Okay.
Thank you, Robin. That takes us to 3E. Echo the approval of the voucher list, and we'll see that list later on this week. Agenda item number 4, department items. We're starting with an extended ILA for Comcast franchise negotiations.
Yeah, items 4A and 4B are related to each other.
Okay.
As you may know, we have, for the last couple of years, with the local jurisdictions of Olympia, Lacey, and Tumwater, we have embarked on negotiations with a franchise agreement with Comcast. That has proven to be tasking, as you can imagine, dealing with a very large utility such as Comcast. So to the point of we continue to negotiate this franchise agreement. So item 4A is for you to consider extending the interlocal agreement that we have with the cities of Tumwater, Olympia, and Lacey through December 31st, 2020, because that is lapsed, and that will continue to have that cooperative approach as to how we're going to be continue to negotiate the Comcast franchise agreement. Item 4B is the professional services associated with that as well. Is for you to consider extending the professional services that we have with Kissinger and Philman, which is that's the law firm who is helping us navigate through the overall complexities of the negotiations with Comcast franchise agreement. As you may probably heard on a couple of occasions over the last few months, there is a lot of legal ramifications related to the some of the federal, what is the FCC?
FCC.
The FCC ruling. The county has been part of challenging some of the rulings. That continues to be part of that. At some point, I believe we need to get to have a franchise agreement to the best of our abilities that will serve the needs of the county as well as the local jurisdictions. As you know, the whole business approach is changing because the subscribers are the regular Comcast, which generates the fees associated with this utility, are decreasing because the business itself is changing as to how the citizens are accessing TV shows and everything else. So that's yet to be seen. We'll continue to negotiations. And again, those items 4A and 4B are related. Robin is taking the lead on that. If you have any questions, he'll be more than happy to answer those.
So 4A is extending the ILA agreement, and 4B is extending professionals contract.
That is correct, sir.
Commissioner Edwards, any questions?
No, sir.
Commissioner Menser?
No.
Okay, it takes care of 4A and 4B then. The 4C is COVID-19 related offsite court operations space.
This is an item that you first heard when you were, the board was distributing the CARES money that we received, the $15.7 million. And it was a request from the court for the board to consider finding a place outside of the courthouse complex to provide an additional courtroom on an interim basis. Because as you know, the current conditions of the courthouse and the courtrooms doesn't allow to have jury trials and yet maintaining the required social distancing. So facilities, as well as with the court staff, embark on a search as to what will be a facility perhaps to meet the requirements of an additional courtroom. So we have found a location, and that is located on 2404 Chandler Court Southwest here in Olympia. It's just a block or so away from the courthouse, which just happened to be available, and it just happened to be very close to the courthouse. This particular item, and I briefly mentioned in a couple of occasions to you, I believe, there is going to be an item that we need to lease at this space. And we will not be able to use the coronavirus unless it's extended over a period of time. So I believe that is going to be part of that. But again, I believe that we need to sign this lease agreement for $468,000. It will allow for us to start implementing, all the tenant improvements that needs to be done before October 31st, and hopefully we can be operational as soon as feasible for the courts to start having jury trials, because as you heard from the courts, it is a lot of backlog of those cases they will need to address at some point. And again, larger background, a lot of information, but again, this is related to one of the many items that you allocated, the coronavirus relief fund. In this case, it's just for an additional courtroom off campus.
All right, Commissioner Menser, any questions?
Just a comment. I mean, time is of the essence here. We've got, as Ramiro said, we have a backlog. We got to get this operational, and it takes a lot of time to do it. So I definitely don't want to delay.
All right, Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, I do have a concern about doing a 2-year lease without knowing where the funding is going to come from later on. And therein lies my concern. Has that been identified yet?
So specifically, no. But we didn't have really an option to have a 1-year lease because the owner wanted to have at least 2-year lease. So that put us in the position to take it or leave it. And also, we knew that perhaps the lease cost beyond the coronavirus is going to be part of the discussion. And that is something that we need to continue to have a conversation with the board as to where the money will come from. I'm extremely optimistic the additional CARES money will become available. I'm additionally also optimistic that perhaps the current coronavirus relief fund will be extended until next year, will give us the capacity to continue to pay for this lease. You may recall you signed a letter to the federal delegation urging them to extend the deadline of October 31st to longer so we can continue to utilize the CARES money for this particular purpose, in fact. So we continue to work on that, but I believe, as Commissioner Mason stated, time is of the essence. At this point, I really don't have a direct answer for your question, Commissioner Edwards, but I think this is perhaps a calculated risk in order to meet the requirements of the courts.
Maybe just one quick follow-up on that then. Are the courts coordinating or at least consulting with other courts around the state and possibly the nation to see if this is kind of a standard way they're going to have to do business in the future? So, I mean, we're getting the best counsel, I guess, from all parties involved. Are you aware of that?
The only thing that I believe they do, because the courts do reach out to their peers across the state, and other counties are facing with the same situation. And in fact, Pierce County has been looking at an offsite courtrooms and many different options. So it's not new. Every single county and the courts are facing with the same situation of a backlog, because even the current courtrooms they have across the county, they were not designed to implement social distancing, and that is really the key. That is really the difficulty of that, and that is why the need to look an offsite courtroom space that allows to do that.
I also take it that we're going to incur the costs of a remodel. Is that right?
The coronavirus relief fund will be used for the tenant improvements. So it will be no cost to the county.
Do we have any type of an idea on how much that's going to cost to remodel this facility?
Robin,
it's approximately $700,000.
And then an ongoing cost of about $500,000 a year after that, right?
Well, and in addition to that, there is the staffing that will be required to operate the building.
I guess I'd like to have a preliminary explanation of what's coming. I'm just a little nervous about this 2-year thing when we don't have it. But if we have to do it, there must be an exit clause in there if we go broke or something. Is that right?
not within the 2 years. This is a commitment to pay 2 years for this property.
We tried, and the owner was not interested. And that is the difficulty, to be honest with you.
I guess then maybe this would be a question for Robin. Is it possible that if we had to go to jury trials, that maybe if they all involved drugs, we could use the treatment sales tax fund or something to try and alleviate pressure on the current expense fund? That's what my concern is.
I understand the concern, Commissioner, but really this cost could only be paid from the general fund if the CRF money is not available.
Does the CRS money, will that 700,000, does that come out of that fund as well?
Yes,
to
it
remodel?
does. Yes.
Okay. And so I understand the urgency to get this thing going because of administering justice for everybody. And I also was going to ask you about the second year funding, and hopefully the legislature will come through. I'm not concerned the county is going to go broke because apparently this guy's not falling. But that is, I'm not kicking it down the road, but if it's the only way, the option is to get into this 2-year lease and we have the funding to get in for the first year and pay for the remodel, then I see moving on this as well, rather than delaying. But how, if we didn't do that next week, when does this need to be exercised?
This needs to be executed as soon as possible. We're already on an extremely tight time frame to get the tenant improvements completed by October, when currently the county must expend the money. We have a grant from the administrator of the courts of the state of Washington to pay for rent costs for November and December at this time. If the grants are pushed out in time, that grant will also be pushed out. So we do have some ability to offset from the state, right, but we need this contract to be executed, which is why we've been talking to you about it for the last few weeks.
Well, I understand this is happening all over, not only the state, but the country. So I would expect that the AOC would kick in something, but I would also hope that the state legislature will have some type of a relief funding for courts. Do you have anything further, Commissioner Edwards?
Yeah, just, I don't know, food for thought, I guess. I'm concerned we're going to put $750,000 into a remodel, and we don't know if we're going to be staying there. We don't even know if we have the ability to stay there if we do a 2-year lease, versus if we were to spend that money at another location, possibly that the county owned. I'm a little gun shy about walking away from that amount of money because it, come to find out, it wasn't the best way to do business. That's all. I hate to be rushing into it with no recovery in sight.
So we looked at county-owned facilities, and there were no suitable facilities, even with a remodel, that we could dedicate to the court at this time.
And we looked at many locations, empty box stores. I mean, we looked just about every single potential location. So it was not necessarily just narrowing to this one. This just happened to meet most of the requirements by the courts. And I understand, I totally understand Commissioner Edwards' concerns. But I believe this is a suggestion by staff to take a calculated risk to provide the services the court needs. Because absent this, I don't know how else we can meet the demands of the courts. And that's where we're struggling, at least from the staff point of view. I believe that next year we're going to make just about every single effort to minimize the impact to the general fund, and that continues to be our approach. We will continue to find ways as to how we're going to be able to meet the requirements of this lease, I'm extremely positive some flexibility, the CARES money will come. And also I'm hopeful the additional money will come to the county as well as a result of I believe is $250 million. They may become an additional allocation to the county based on the existing coronavirus. But I think it's going to be extended. The time is going to be extended. So I think it's going to be some additional money that will ease the impact on the general fund.
Can I go ahead, sir?
Yeah.
About a year or so ago, we were talking about some type of a lease from, it was out by where the sheriff has a substation out in the port of Olympia. And I don't know what ever came of that.
By the airport?
By the airport, that's right. And I just hope we are reviewing everything that is available to us. I wouldn't mind sitting on apple boxes in court for the first year or two if that's what it took, rather than spend $750,000 on something that we end up walking away from because it's not the permanent situation that we need, or at least the long-term situation that we need. So I don't know how we went about this. I suppose we didn't have to go out to bid because we or the governor has declared an emergency that we're faced with. But I would like to make sure that we've covered all options and that we could have the potential for multiple use of an expenditure like that. So I would like to have additional conversation with the courts, possibly, with whoever is designing this and putting it together, because when I say apple boxes, I mean bare bones until we get this thing figured out. I'm not trying to cut anybody short. I'm concerned about moving forward with this, but this is kind of a high stakes game here that we don't know what's coming. We're all being a little optimistic, which I like to be optimistic, but we just don't know what's coming. So
yeah, and you're
I'd like to hear a little more about this.
You're absolutely correct, Commissioner. But with all the respect, the do nothing, I don't think is the right way to do it. Because there's something, occurring need by the courts. We are not going to, the $150,000 tenant improvements is not going to build us a glorious courtroom. It's going to be very minimum to meet the needs of the courts. It is going to be, this is an existing building here a couple blocks where there used to be office buildings. And that is, it requires some tenant improvements just to accommodate space. So I understand the concerns. I truly understand the concerns. But at this point is the do nothing may not be meeting the needs of the courts. Certainly, the board has that option, and I don't want to come across that you do not have that option. You do have that option to say no, and that will be part of your discussion.
Robin, do you have something to add before I chime in? Thank you.
I do, and that is that the process that we've undertaken has been going on for the last 2 months. We work together with District Court, Superior Court, the clerk, corrections, to ensure that only the minimal requirements were addressed, but we do need to address those minimal requirements for security in a courtroom and security of the people, the citizens, the jurors, the court officers, and the defendants who are all being brought to this new location. We work closely. Judge Price talked to this group on many occasions to ensure that we were not designing something that was more than what we absolutely need. So this is considered a bare bones. And the biggest hurdle was the fact that we would not commit to a long-term lease. That narrowed our options considerably. that we would not agree to anything more than 2 years, and we had to fight to get a 2-year agreement from the landlord. So this is the bare bones.
So let me ask you this, this location is not, the entire court is not moving from the courthouse onto Chandler Court. That would be an auxiliary courtrooms and jury and such. And
One
what's that?
courtroom.
One courtroom. This
It's
will be
one-
one large courtroom for Superior Court and one large courtroom for District Court, so that they can conduct 2 jury trials at a time instead of only one, where we normally conduct 3 to 4.
Okay, so moving away from sitting on apple crates, I'm inclined, I'm going to keep this on the agenda for next week, so we can move on, because time is of the essence, so the courts can move on. And I trust our staff have done a thorough job examining all kinds of locations, to include including the courts in this as well. Haven't been done in a vacuum. So we'll keep this on the agenda for next week.
Commissioner Hutchins, could I make one comment, please?
If it's brief, yes, sir.
Have we talked with the landlord over at the Port of Olympia on that airport property where the sheriff has a location? He was going to expand, or we had talked about his operation expanding should, had that courthouse thing went differently. And I just want to make sure that we've covered that particular area, because we would have security built in somewhat with the sheriff's office being already located there. It might be a safer area, and it seemed like that landlord that we're doing business with already had offered up some serious square footage to be modified over there. So
No, if you may recall, it was additional construction, new construction.
So they're gonna build a whole wing.
Yeah, it was new construction. The developer was offering to expand the operations of the sheriff's office. I don't believe there is an empty space there.
I guess, okay, I mean, we can move forward on this. I'm going to question how I'm going to vote on this until I hear a little more information from over, I just need a little more information, I guess. So we'll talk about it later. Thank you.
Is that property within Olympia city limits?
It's Water.
So that would not be suitable for Superior Court.
Well, that's a legal issue, I guess we'd have to
That
look
was
into.
one of the criteria.
Okay. Well, we won't have to look at that issue because it's not an option. All right, we're moving on then. Thank you for that briefing. We've discussed it for quite some time. It's ready to move. Next is agenda item number 5, the Central Services bid award for emergency services HVAC.
Yeah, you may recall this item that you authorized the Department of Central Services to go ahead and issue a request for bids to replace the HVAC system on the Emergency Services 911 building. And on August 10th, 2020, we received 2 bids, which the apparently low bidder was the Crescent Mechanical Incorporated from Auburn, Washington. The low bid was $290,985, which did not include taxes or contingencies. So the department is requesting for you to award the bid to this contractor for a total amount of $350,171.35, which includes taxes and contingencies.
Okay, any questions, commissioners?
Yes, what fund is that coming out of?
This comes from the building reserves.
Commissioner Menser, any questions?
No, I remember this one.
Good. Well, thank you, Marius, for joining us, but no questions.
Thank you. Thank you,
Moving
Commissioner.
on to agenda 6, item number 6, community planning, economic development, Puget Sound Energy Conservation Easement.
So let me take you back. And this is to our item is related to the habitat conservation plan and the impacts of the Masama pocket gopher on areas that perhaps they have found existence of pocket gophers. On the current process that we have, when a property is a developer or property owner would like to develop their property within the pocket gopher habitat identified areas. First of all, we go through an inspection. As you know, we have 2 inspections that will have to occur within a certain period of time. If there is no evidence of existence of the listed species, any property owner will have to move forward and they can do the development. If is found during the inspections the presence of a pocket gopher, the property owner developer has a couple of options. One is to go through avoidance to see if they can avoid the impacts where they found this particular listed species. The other option is to wait until the county has a habitat conservation plan in place. You know where we are on that. And the third is for them to go through their own habitat conservation plan with U.S. Fish and Wildlife. You have already experienced a couple of property owners that have gone through the last process, having their own habitat conservation plan with U.S. Fish and Wildlife. The result of that process is to set aside easements for long-term and perpetuated conservation related to their impacts. One of the key elements of that is that those individuals, the property owners, cannot hold those easements in perpetuity. A third party has to hold those easements in perpetuity. In this case, it's the county. And the county has taken responsibility of a couple of easements related to a specific property owners. So the item before you is, again, is the same process, but this is related to the Puget Sound Energy. They have gone through the process of, they have to do activities to maintain their facilities and maybe construct and modify their facilities, which most of those easements where they have these facilities are within the pocket gopher habitat. That is just about 70.41 acres. They have gone through the process of securing the habitat conservation plan, so we get to the point of the county accepting those easements for us to manage, perhaps in perpetuity. There's always a financial component to that, and the financial component at this point is for PSC to pay $1,194,000, I believe, no, $1,194 per year to the county to do the activities of field visits, as well as providing the report to U.S. Fish and Wildlife, which is a requirement to do that. That is in a larger context. Christina Chapeau can walk you through with more detail of this particular items, and she's available to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Chris. Go ahead. Do you have anything to add? You're muted.
Yep. No, I think Romero summed it up nicely. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Jennifer, do you have anything to add?
Just that this is a good service to our citizens to be able to hold an easement such as this.
Okay. Commissioner Minster, any questions or comments?
So I assume that the fee they're paying is a full cost capture of the needs that we have to provide the service, and it's just a way to make this happen. I know for a couple of citizens we did it for, I felt like at that time that it was something we needed to, because we were working on our HCP and we weren't there yet, and it's taking a long time. We sort of did this to help a couple, small group of individual citizens. And I think we talked about at that time that when we talked about structuring the last one, we talked about putting language in the agreement that would allow it to transfer over to a third party or a bank or some getting it sort of off our plate in the future rather than something that we would continue to do for years and years into the future. Is that what we're talking about here, or are we expecting that we'll be continuing to do this.
No, we do expect this particular, or these 13 properties to be transferred to a larger land trust. This actually, this mitigation is to get PSC over a 5-year hurdle so that they can develop a broader, more regional plan for themselves, which would include the county's habitat conservation plan mitigation strategy. So we're holding the easement knowing that it will be in perpetuity, but there is a clause within the easement that can, and if PSC and the county and US Fish agree, transfer that easement to another qualified landowner, or excuse me, easement holder. And yes, the fees are cost recovery. They are directly out of our fee structure.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, sir. Is that fee per parcel?
It is not, it's per project. It's a fee that allows staff 6 hours of time to conduct the work, which is a review of the properties to assure that the properties aren't in non-compliance with the easement terms. So it's not a biological review of the site. It's just to make sure that the easement doesn't have structures or vandalism on the site, making sure that it meets the easement terms. There is also within the clause of the, or the writing within the easement, there is a clause that allows the county, if so needed, to charge over that 6 hours at $199 per hour, which is set in our fee structure currently. There is a clause that allows us to increase those fees year by year. It's it basically states the fees are subject to change based on our fee structure.
Are these 13 parcels located in one geographical area?
They're fairly close together. There are 6 parcels that are actually adjacent to one another. So a full day site visit, it would be easy to do for all of these parcels.
And then apparently Puget Sound Energy has developed an HCP, and by doing this, they're going to be able to get their take permit and such. Is that right?
That is correct.
And they've developed that HCP with US Fish and Wildlife?
Yes. Correct.
Oh, by any chance, you don't happen to know how long they've been working on theirs?
I believe they've been, well, we've been in discussions with them for over 1.5 years.
And we've been trying to get it done for 5 years. What does that mean? Money talks and something else walks?
It means that our HCP is much more complicated with multi-species and multi-covered activities.
Thank you. Good answer.
Okay.
Thank you, Chris. Any other questions or comments? Nope. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for on that topic. 6B, service agreement with the City of Tumwater.
Commissioner, this for your consideration is to get into any local agreement with the City of Tumwater for us to provide professional services. The City of Tumwater reached out to the county to see if we can, if they can access the expertise of our county hydrologist to review some of the technical report the City of Tumwater has in place. And this particular agreement allows really the financial transaction for the hours our county hydrologist will spend reviewing some of their documents. And again, this is the billable rate that we have is $199 per hour. And again, this is again the instrument, the interlocal agreement to get us to the point to provide those technical expertise that it was as a result of the request from the City of Tumwater to the county. Jennifer Davis can expand on this request as she needs to do.
Jennifer, anything?
No, just that it's a pretty straightforward contract. It simply allows us to invoice the city for the services of our hydrologist. I will say that the contract is currently under review by the City of Tumwater's Council. So we expect a signed approved copy back from them in time for you to take action on the 25th.
Very good. Commissioner Edwards, anything?
Yes. By any chance, are we in any position that we would incur liability through this action that's brought later on? Have we got some kind of hold harmless agreement or something that's written in there so we're not in trouble?
I believe that is the case, but Jennifer can confirm. We usually have a hold harmless agreement clauses in any ILA.
We do, and our attorney has reviewed it, so I think we're covered there.
So we've got legal review ourselves, is what?
Right.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Edwards or Commissioner Menser? All right, thank you, Jennifer. Moving on to Public Works, number 7 on the agenda, temporary closure of Reeder Road.
Commissioners, for your consideration, Public Works is requesting a temporary closure of Reeder Road to replace the existing bridge that is located on Beaver Creek. And this particular closure will be from September 8, 2020 through January 29, 2021. This is a low traffic roadway, includes only fewer than 100 trips per day. And we are going to be implementing a detour to supplement for the road closure. And again, any road closures require legislative action, and that is why this item comes to your attention. I believe Matt Anselman is ready to answer any question you may have related to this closure. And there's another item down on this agenda related to the same project. So I will cover that when the time comes.
Okay. Commissioner Menser, any questions or comments regarding this one? No? Okay, Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, on the detour, what kind of a detour are we talking about? Is it just like a alternate bridge? Or you have to go around 10 miles, or what's the deal?
So this is Bill Richardson, and I'm answering for this. We actually do not require a detour on this. It's a dead-end road. The adjacent properties are locally, they have their own access. So the road will be closed and as it is temporarily.
And who is speaking, please? Identify yourself.
Bill Richardson. Sorry, you can't see my mouth moving.
Well, I know that. I just want, for the record, I want people to know who you are. Thank you.
Thank you for the correction. There's not going to be a detour.
Okay. Anything else, commissioners?
No, sir.
Nope. Okay. 7B.
For your consideration, commissioners, this is authorize the Public Works Director to enter into a local agency agreement with the Washington State Department of Transportation. This local agency agreement is the document in which the county receives federal money to implement road construction. This particular federal money comes from the Surface Transportation Program, also known as STP, and it is specifically to address pedestrian crossings on Yelm Highway and Pacific Avenue. I believe we have planned 3 mid-block crossings identified in this particular in Pacific Avenue, I believe, and a couple more in Yelm Highway. The STP award for this project is $475,000, and there is an additional Highway Safety Improvement Program, also known as HSIP, for $315,000. There is a minimum match of 13.5 of STP funding, and that will be using the road fund to supplement the grant. And again, this is the instrument in which the county can access federal grants to implement, in this particular case, pedestrian crossings. And the staff from Public Works is ready to answer any questions related to this request.
Commissioner Edwards, any questions?
No, sir.
Commissioner Menser? Nope, me neither. Thank you, staff. 7C, contract award for Reeder Road Bridge.
And go back to the road closure they just approved, and for your consideration is for you to award the contract to SB Structures LLC for the amount of $1,423,467. On July 30th, the Department of Public Works received 8 bids related to the replacement of Reader Road Bridge. And again, the low bidder was SB Structures LLC. The department is requesting for you to consider awarding the contract to this contractor with a total aggregate amount of $1,565,814, which includes a 10% contingency to address any unexpected items related to construction. And this is part of the budget, and I believe we have a grant from the bridge replacement program, but staff can confirm if that is the case. And I believe also there is a required match to the BRAC grant, and that will be covered by the road fund as well.
Okay, Commissioner Menser, do you have any questions?
No.
Commissioner Edwards?
Just maybe one thing. How about salmon habitat? Does that help us on the salmon habitat issue?
There are fish there, but it is not a fish passage issue. So, no.
Well, okay, when it goes in, will it be maneuverable for fish, I guess, by the time we get done, better than it is, possibly?
The state will not improve too much for fish. It's already fairly passable, or it's adequately passable for fish currently. And we do have a longer bridge going in, so there may be some improvements, but it's not a measurable amount.
Perhaps the main objective of this project is to replace a bridge who is structurally deficient. Structurally is no longer adequate, and that is the purpose of this bridge. But absolutely correct, Commissioner Edwards. As a result of replacing the bridge, the habitat will be enhanced as a result of that. But the objective of this project is not a fish barrier removal, is replacing a structurally deficient bridge. But the second objective will help on the habitat if we get fish at some point.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. 7D, Delta, contract award for Jones Road Guardrail installation.
As you can tell, Public Works is busy during the construction season. This is for you to consider an award to M2 Industrial Inc. for the amount of for the total amount of $46,618. We received 2 bids. The low bid was $42,380, and that will be to replace guardrails in some areas of the county. And this funding will come from the real estate excise tax REIT 2. And the staff is ready to answer any questions you may have.
Commissioner Edwards?
Well, the only reason I just question that is, so road fund is not going to cover any of this, and it's going to be REIT funding that does it? Is that?
Yeah, and that has been already allocated, I believe, on the budget.
So this is specifically to put on guardrail near Jones Road Bridge that our crews are installing for fish passage project. So this is covered under the fish passage.
Okay, thank you.
Program.
Commissioner Menser? Me neither, thank you, staff. 7E, Echo, contract award for Highway Safety Improvement Program.
You briefly reviewed this item, Commissioner, when you authorized the department to go out and secure bids. So on July 30, 2020, the department received 4 bids for the 2018 Highway Safety Improvement Program. And the low bidder was Coral Construction Company, and the low bid was $868,888. The department is requesting for you to authorize the director to award the contract to this contractor for a total aggregate amount of $955,777, which includes a 10% contingency. The construction will be funded by the federal safety improvement grants 100%, so there is not a road fund contribution to this. Some of the main areas that you may recall, it will be removing and relocating over 8,000 feet of substandard guardrail along Little Rock Road and Waddle Creek Road. Also installing over 3,000 of new guardrail along Tono Road Southeast, and installed 5 miles of centerline and shoulder rumble strips along Rainier Road. And as you may recall, you had a long conversation as to what the setbacks that will be related to rumble strips away from residences. That was a request from Commissioner Edwards. And I believe Matt Elselman responded that in fact, that has been, the setback has been increased since we have received some comments from the citizens related to noise.
Commissioner Menser, any questions or comments? Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir. Sounds like my issues are addressed, sounds like.
Very good. That takes care of agenda item, all of them in number 7. The last one, number 8, is all the administrivia that we go through at the very end. And that concludes the August 25th, the next Tuesday's agenda review. So now we're going to take a 15-minute break. We will be back at 5 minutes to 11. 5 to 11, so we're in recess. Thank you.
Romero, you running away?
In 3, 2, 1.
All right, welcome back to the Board of County Commissioners Agenda Setting a Work Session for Tuesday, August 18th, 2020. We're moving on with the agenda. We're now to the point to talk about proclamations and awards, if there are any.
There are no proclamations this week.
That will be Amy Davis, the clerk of the board.
Yeah, but it wasn't very clear.
Oh.
Did you say nothing?
Yes, sorry about that. There are no proclamations this week.
Oh, lovely. Thank you, Amy. Advisory boards and commissions, aside from Chad Sutter with SWAC.
No, this week we have the one application for review, as outlined by Romero earlier. That is from Chad Sutter for the Solid Waste Advisory Committee as the recycling industry representative. His current term ends September 2020, and he resides in District 2. So this is in your packet for review, and we can circle back next Tuesday morning for approval of this item on the agenda, if you'd like.
It's very nice to see we're doing it ahead of time and not retrospectively, going backwards. We're doing it ahead of September. That's good.
Related to this
right.
item, if I may.
Yes.
Last week, Commissioner Menser asked perhaps we need to look as to how we can enhance the presence on our website related to the boards and commissions. So staff has already started working on this week. So when we have a plan for you, so the steps that we're planning to take, we'll bring this the future agenda setting, just to let you know what we're planning to do related to that particular comment and request.
And what specifically was that, Ty? You want to tell me?
I was just suggesting that we do a better job of keeping our vacancies up to date on the website, so that, because it came from a citizen asking me, how can I get involved? Should I check the website on boards and commissions? And I said, I'm not sure. Let me get you some information. And then Ramiro confirmed that, yeah, we don't really have those vacancies locked in and up to date, so people can see with links to the qualifications and the application process, because there's a few different wrinkles depending on the, some of them you have to be from a certain district. So anyway, I just think if we want to encourage citizen participation, it would be great if I could just say, yeah, here's the website, here's all the opportunities you have to get involved in county government, and have that really up to date.
Well, that sounds like a very simple quality improvement, and I like that. All right, thank you for that. PIO check-in.
Good morning, Commissioners. Megan Porter, Public Information Supervisor. The e-signature policy that I've been talking about for the last few weeks has been drafted, and it's now moving through the approval process. So it's currently with Robin and our legal to review that. So hopefully we can get that through fairly quickly. We had a meeting last week with the other county communicators, and a few questions came up about how to get translation and interpretation services. So I've drafted a policy around that as well, and I'm working with a small group to refine that policy before we send it through the approval process. I expect that we'll need to have a procedure to go with that as well, so that it's easy for people to get the translation services that they need. With the census coming out, it'll adjust who we need to, what languages we need to translate into, and so we need to be prepared for that. So I'm working on that. And speaking of the census, Thurston County is ranked 3rd in the state for the response for the 2020 census, with a response rate of 73.4, which is great. The other two are Clark and King, and they're barely ahead of us. So Thurston County is doing great. The Census Bureau announced that it will complete the data collection phase of the census on September 30th. So that means all the field collection operations will end and the online questionnaire will shut down. So anyone who has not responded to the 2020 census should do so before September 30th by visiting my2020census.gov or calling 1-844-330-2020.
And it only takes 10 minutes to answer 10 questions that bring vital resources to our community right here locally.
Yes.
So if you haven't done it, please do it. Any questions or comments, Commissioner Edwards, for Megan?
My only question would be, is that 844 number a toll-free number for folks?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Menser?
Megan, a request for you. The Thurston Climate Mitigation Steering Committee, I've been pinch hitting a couple of times for Commissioner Edwards. They're asking the communications departments of the various jurisdictions to work together. There's going to be some public events in September. They're expecting the draft plan at the end of, well, the end of this month, with some public outreach events planned for September. And those are going to be very important to build community understanding of the plan and input toward any final modifications. So I just want to give you a heads up that if you could help out with that in any way that made sense to you, I would appreciate it.
Okay, I'd be happy to do that. I'll reach out to Thomasina to get a little bit more details.
Yeah, Allison Osterberg at TRPC is kind of the point person too, but Thomasina can help.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Good, thank you, Megan. Now we're moving on to legislative updates. Probably nothing, or is there?
I don't have any updates on that item, Commissioners.
All right. Public hearing decisions pending?
Nothing is pending for your consideration.
Okay, so that takes us to the agenda item, Commissioners' items. The first is annexation, proposed Mullen Road with the City of Olympia.
Yeah, City of Lacey, I'm sorry. There's
Lacey.
Three proposed annexations, two from the City of Lacey, one from the City of Tumwater. The first two are actually in the process of the annexation. The third, with the City of Tumwater, is more of a upcoming and information for you at this point. The first one, the Mullen Road annexation, and we have attached for you maps that depicts the proposed annexation related to what the City of Lacey is proposing. I personally have been working with Scott Spence, the city manager for Lacey, on this particular annexation. This annexation was requested by the fire district. They have a fire district property in there. There's really behind the fire district property is a preservation area of close to 30 acres. They most likely will not be developed. And my suggestion to the board is not to challenge this particular annexation. At least from my point of view, it makes sense. And again, I have been working with Scott Spence, and if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Commissioner Menser, any questions about that annexation?
I do remember talking about this property like a year ago. Can you remind, like, what is the, I don't have any necessarily problem with it, but what is the City of Lacey, what's the goal? What's the motivation for moving forward on this one?
It was requested by the fire district. The fire district is planning to develop this property eventually, and they would like to develop based on the city standards. And that's really the gist of this annexation. Beyond that, there is not really any other issues that perhaps surfaced. When I mentioned this to you over a year ago, the annexation was a little bit different, and through the conversations with Scott Spence, myself, perhaps concluded on this particular annexation perhaps makes sense at this point.
Yeah, I remember this numerous months ago, earlier this year regarding this, and it was proffered by the fire district.
Yeah.
It's not so much we're annexing, or it's being annexed for future commercial development that would reduce or take away any revenues.
Right, and it does not create islands, so that's right. Also another factor. So,
do you have anything else, Commissioner Menser?
No, not.
Okay, Commissioner Edwards.
No, sir.
Oh, good. Okay. The next one, Serenity Carpenter Road for Lacey.
So this may be a little bit different. And there is, again, we request by, I believe, a property owner requesting annexation of Serenity Apartments along Carpenter Road. We have attached for you what is the proposed annexation. And in this case, we are taking a different approach from the staff point of view for you to consider. because it does create a little bit of an island related to this item, and the staff is here to provide you with options as to how you may consider when we provide feedback to the city of Lacey. So Josh and Jeremy are here to walk you through some of the options that staff is presented to you today.
Josh, you want to supplement what Romero gave us?
Sure, yeah, Joshua Cummings, Director of Community Planning and Economic Development. And I would say, just so everybody's kind of on the same page, I have been in contact with my direct peer over at the City of Lacey, Rick Walk, and we understand that there are multiple processes to annexation. This one was received by the City of Lacey, by the petitioner, the owner of Serenity Apartment Homes. And so part of the process is the city receives a petition like this, they send it out for comment, and this is that process. So our comment is, in keeping with the fundamentals of not creating islands if possible, we can respond back with your direction with potentially option 2. And if you'll see, the option 1 is the petitioners on that map. And if you go to the next map on option 2, that uses a method that Jeremy can explain in more detail, but it essentially the valuation of the property just south, we can request that that property also be annexed during this process. And the City of Lacey then will take that forward to their council and move forward with the BRB, with the Boundary Review Board, with a formal submittal. So this is kind of the preliminary stages where we're kind of talking about what they're going to formally submit to the BRB. And like I said, I've been in contact with Rick Walk over at the City of Lacey, and we're all in agreement that this is, you know, the steps that we take. So we've got these options. We could either, the board could either guide us to just let this annexation go and create an island with option 1, or ask us to proceed with comment back to the City of Lacey saying that we prefer option 2, which is to not create islands and for that property to include the road adjacent on Carpenter. And then the rest of it is just logistics and putting Jeremy to work on the smart stuff.
Jeremy, do you have anything to add?
I do not, actually. Josh explained it very well, so.
Okay, I just have one quick question. That is that the petitioner's property, the Serenity, do they have city water and sewer already, or what's the scoop?
That's a good question. It's in the letter, I believe.
Is it?
It talks about some of those recitals in the original letter, but we can find that out for you, Commissioner.
Just wondering. Commissioner Edwards, go ahead.
Who owns that 5 acres that's in question now? Same party?
On the south end?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know. No.
And how do they feel about this?
It's a good question. Jeremy, do you know who owns it?
I will have to look that up in geodata. I do know it is a different owner, a different property owner.
We can reach out to
and when you say create another island, it's not going to be completely surrounded by the City of Lacey if we went with the petitioner, but it would be mostly surrounded. Is that right?
Yeah.
And we don't know anything about the feelings of the property owner at this point in time.
So this is that conversation, Commissioner. If you want us to reach out to that property owner, we can, but we didn't want to premature.
I'd like to know more. Yeah, for sure.
Great.
Commissioner Menser.
So obviously I can see the geometry and the shapes on the map, and why from that purely that perspective you'd want to include potentially the 5 acres. But there's always more complexity to these than just that. So I'm just wondering, aside from the shapes on the paper, are there other considerations that would be a burden to us, a benefit to us? Josh, you mentioned something about the adjacent road, or I mean, what else should I be thinking about besides just creating nice even shapes? Because that's not, and that's important, but it's not the only consideration.
Certainly. So this nice even shape conversation is driven in honor of the board to not create islands. And then once we get the direction from the board to explore further the shape, as it were, then we go and say, okay, what are the assets that we might have in terms of public works, stormwater facilities, any of those items? So we do more detailed digging. And I think that Commissioner Edwards has a good point too, that we reach out to the property owner that could potentially be included. So there's a little more due diligence that happens, but this is kind of your guys' opportunity to provide us a preliminary thumbs up to give a heads up to Lacey and to do a little more exploration.
So more to come potentially on what those considerations might be.
Depending upon your guys' guidance.
And then, you know, the other thing is I've seen what, 6 or 8 annexations now in 18 months that I've been here. And I haven't seen one that, I have seen one where it was initiated by a property owner. There was that one in Lacey where it was a mobile home park that wanted to be, but they went ahead, but I've never seen one like this where it's just like a single parcel owner and it's a tiny little chunk. I mean, usually it's a kind of a broader, even though it might be motivated by a particular property owner or parcel, they take kind of a bigger piece. So I'm just wondering, I guess, how unusual is it if, you know, for us to go through this process just for an apartment complex, you know, versus looking at things in little bigger chunks?
It's driven by the path that the citizens take. So sometimes it's driven by a jurisdiction, and that's mostly what you've seen, Commissioner. This was specifically driven by a single citizen.
So Lacey doesn't even have, we don't even necessarily know if Lacey agrees to this or have they endorsed this in some way by coming to us, the city of Lacey?
They need to follow the process. And so this is that process. I'm not sure if it's necessarily an endorsement. That happens later when the council makes their decision. But this is right now at a staff process level.
And I believe what the staff is stating is based on the direction the board will like to staff to proceed, then all that information will be presented to the Lacey City Council, whether it's just option 1 or option 2. So, and I think that's the beginning of the conversations. A lot of work still needs to be done, and Commissioner Messer is right on point. You know, it seems a bit unusual just to have a postage stamp type of a parcel that is surrounded by nothing. And if that is something that the city of Lacey would like to proceed, I think is a good opportunity for the county to at least provide our perspective as to how they may consider moving forward on this request.
Thank you.
Very good. Anything else on that one? Nope. Okay.
Well, you need, I mean, do you need direction from us?
Yeah, we need direction whether you like to go with option 1 and option 2.
Okay, I didn't know if you want to do that as we go by each one or collectively. But yeah, let's do that.
Aren't we going to find out more information so we can make an informed decision what that other property owner thinks about it? That, you know.
So if the direction is go to option number 2, we'll get into additional information because at this point, you know, there's going to be other opportunities for the board to weigh in on this particular request. Because at this point, we don't know if the city of Lacey will pursue this annexation. That is the key.
I mean, I want more information on the whole thing. There's a lot of I don't knows here.
So I need more information too, but I'm giving you a thumbs up on option number 2. I like that much better than option number 1 for the eliminates an island.
And so we have 2 questions on the table that we will research. First is from Commissioner Hutchings. Does this property currently have city water and sewer? Second is from Commissioner Edwards. How does the property south feel about it? We can engage on both of those.
Okay, Commissioner Messer, option 1 or 2?
Just from where I'm, yeah, I guess option 2 at this point in terms of exploratory, I agree with Commissioner Edwards. I don't have enough information to take a position, but what you're describing is that this is our initial reaction to this proposal. And my initial reaction is I need a good reason why we would carve out 3 acres that almost completely islands off 5 other acres. If there's a good reason for that, then I'd like to hear it. But based on what I've heard today, I would say I would ask to talk further about option 2 with Lacey.
Hutch, could I make a comment on that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no heartburn with any of it. It's just that what's the process if we find out that the 5-acre parcel, he's adamantly opposed. I mean, for whatever reason, I don't even know who it is, you know, but I'm just saying, if that's the case, I mean, we would still want to go ahead with an annexation that helps the city of Lacey acquire this property, because eventually the whole thing is, I mean, that's the intent of the urban growth area, is that it be absorbed in by the municipality. So if I knew the answer to the 5-acre parcel, I'd give you some direction right now, but I don't know the answer to the 5-acre parcel. So that's why I'm a little bit hesitant. I like both of them if it fits with everybody's needs.
Well, we're not stuck with any one option. We're just giving direction. I prefer
look
option number two,
into, I
but we're
need
not
more
married.
information.
Not married to anything, to this decision. Do you have what you need, Josh, on that one?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The third one is UGA Islands in the city of Tumwater.
Yeah,
And
this is
looks like it's a alleviating island.
right. This is informational at this point for you. Formal request for annexation has not been submitted. And I had a conversation with the city administrator, John Dawn, for the city of Tumwater. And over the last 3 years, the city of Tumwater has been extremely proactive in eliminating islands in the within the city of Tumwater municipal boundaries. So John and I had a conversation, and they would like to approach this in addressing all the many different islands they currently have within the city of Tumwater. So attached to your packet, there is a map that has red squares are all the many different islands the city of Tumwater is trying to move forward on this request. During my conversation, you see the larger red area, just north of the Little Rock Road. That was the point of my conversation. So if you flip the page, you see an aerial photography of that area that gives you a much better depiction as to what that is. It's already been developed. There is an area just north of the pond. There seems to be undeveloped. That I asked the question, it appears to me that is encumbered by wetlands. And he confirmed that in a follow-up email. So it is unlikely that that particular property will be developed. The rest of the properties is a little aerial for you to see. Most of those are already developed. There is really nothing of concern. So I stated to John that I will do my due diligence to bring this to your attention, more of for your information at this point. So when the actual request to annexation to eliminate those islands come to your attention, you're not surprised as to that approach. So, and again, I said it to John Dawn that I appreciate the proactive approach from the city of Tumwater to eliminate the islands, because I believe that is the main objective of the Board of County Commissioners as well.
So this is informational only.
Yep.
Any questions, comments?
No decisions at this point.
Commissioner Menster, any questions or comments on this?
No, I'm just looking through the different pieces. And most of these are true 100% surrounded islands.
Yep,
So
that is correct.
I strongly support helping them get this done.
Commissioner Edwards?
My concern would be for the individual citizens that own these properties. Is there a reason this has never happened before? I mean, is their tax burden, for an example, going to double the day we sign that annexation or something like that? So I want to look out for the citizens as much as I can. And the other piece of that is any of it retail outlet that would benefit the county substantially versus if it was in the city. So I just need more information on them.
More information will come when the actual proposal will come before you.
When you say a proposal, is this going to be made by the city or the property owner?
No, the city.
Okay.
The city will have to file an annexation request.
And we'll get all that information when that happens, right?
Yeah. But there is not really, my brief review of this, there's not really retail associated with this.
Thank you.
Now, the only thing I saw in John Doan's letter was that there's a non-conforming auto repair or something in that working out of someone's home. Seemed to be the only commercial aspect of it. But yeah, there's just information. We'll get more as it develops.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Josh, and thank you, Jeremy.
Can I say one more thing on this, Chairman? So I just want to point out and say thank you to the Board of County Commissioners and staff. This is actually an outcropping of the success on the conversations we've been having on annexation. A few years ago, we were a lot more reactive when it came to annexations with our city partners. And what we're experiencing right now is a process-oriented, more proactive manner. And this is a success. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that and appreciate the hard work that's gone into this the past few years with our city partners.
Thank you for validating what I was going to say, but forgot to say, and that is, I believe this is going through because of relationship building with the cities. And I think our relationship and communication with the cities is far better than it was prior to the last 2 years. And so I'm glad that you, Romero, are reaching out with John Doan, Scott Spence, working with your peers and such, and good relationships based on trust fosters a camaraderie. We get the business done at the county. So thank you for that.
Thank you for your support.
So that takes us to Commissioner item number 2. That's Thurston County Chamber proposal to restarting the economy.
Sorry for the extra S. And this is a follow-up to the letter you received as to how the county could implement, some proposals to restart the economy as a result of COVID-19. One of the key elements on that proposal was the deferral of impact fees. And we have continued to have those conversations with the industry, Josh and his staff. So Josh is going to walk you through to provide an update and perhaps something that you might be seeing in the upcoming future related to this particular item.
All right. Thank you, Romero. So yes, we received, we being the many jurisdictions, the major cities in the county, a letter from the Thurston Chamber on May 27th, not from Thurston Strong. So it was directly from the Chamber. And they had some concepts on things that they thought would be helpful in restarting the economy. 2 of the items related directly. So we met with them, we talked with them in early June, and came to the agreement that 2 of the items related directly to staff capacity. So they agreed to, help us find new folks to come into our organization to review permit and plans and get that pipeline continue to move forward. The 3rd item was the deferral of impact fees. And so we agreed that within the county, we would check in with our Public Works Department on the impact that deferring the impact fees for traffic and parks would have in terms of the way that we're cataloging the money and how the things are flowing through the process. And then they agreed, the chamber representatives agreed that they would reach out to the other jurisdictions that are impacted by this. And that would be the North Thurston School District, Olympia School District, Rochester, Tumwater, Yelm, and SETFA, the Southeast Thurston Fire Authority. So the chamber reached out over the past few weeks to see what impact the deferral of impact fees would have on their organizations. They came back to us. So I had reached out to them in June and July to ask if they needed any help on that conversation. And then just recently, at the beginning of August, they relayed that they hadn't been getting much traction with the other jurisdictions on the deferral of impact fees. So I asked them directly if they would like us to continue on this item with it just being the internal county impact fees, traffic and parks. And they said, yes, please bring this to the Board of County Commissioners for them to consider CPED, moving forward on a code revision to allow for the deferral of impact fees for just traffic and parks. And so that's this conversation now that we're having. Brett is here to provide more details on the actual code revision itself. We have checked in with Public Works. They reviewed the language and updated it, and they're comfortable with the way that it would work logistically. And so that's this conversation. Do you want us to keep going, or shall we pause?
So Josh, can you explain that in fact right now in the code, there is allowance to defer the impact fees upon request? Can you please elaborate on that?
Definitely. Go for it, Brett. We've talked about this. You're on mute, Brett.
Excuse me, of course I am. Thank you very much. Yes, our code does allow, Title 25 does allow for the deferral of impact fees associated with projects. but it is on a case-by-case basis, and it requires essentially a written letter and or application type to the Director of Community Planning and Economic Development. And then from there, the deferrals are assessed and determined to be deferred or not deferred based, again, on the case-by-case basis. This approach would be an overarching advancement of deferral of impact fees for both residential and commercial under one front, if you will. It wouldn't be case by case. It would just be proactive during the time of the COVID-19 period that you guys have already.
And so we do, if you are interested in our professional opinion, we do see the value in this umbrella approach instead of it being a case by case. And we do have the code language ready and approved for your review. It's gone through legal counsel. It's gone through the chamber's review. Their legal counsel, Heather Burgess, has reviewed it as well. So we do see value in this, but we didn't want to go much further without your input.
Didn't OMB also suggest this a while back?
OMB was part of the chamber representatives that brought this forward.
Okay. And just real quick, you said it's an overarching kind of policy. It could be. Do you have any idea what that would cost in lost revenue?
So Brett, talk about the actual machinations, because we actually aren't losing revenue. We're just deferring that revenue to a point down the road. So talk about when they actually pay now and when they pay later.
Yeah.
Sure. As of current status, if you pull your building permit, that's when you pay your impact fees out here at the Building Development Center. This deferment would defer to the certificate of occupancy. So one would not be allowed to occupy whatever structure they are building without paying those impact fees. And so essentially the deferment of payment is not upfront prior to the building being constructed. It's at the end once it is constructed. And there, depending on the construction schedule, that could take weeks or months.
So thank you. I misused the word lost revenue because it's deferment. I understand that. And you reached out to the fire district and the school districts.
Yeah, and they, like I said, they're not at this point a party to this moving forward. They did not reply in the affirmative or negative to the chamber representative.
Okay, Commissioner Minster, you had your hand up.
I just want to know, like, how many folks are taking advantage of this case-by-case process, either in general or since the pandemic has hit? How many letters do we get asking for deferral?
Go for it, Brett.
Since I've been working here over a year and through this pandemic, I have not received one request for deferral.
So, I mean, yeah, that's what I was afraid of, because if this was really something that was important enough that it was going to help restart Thurston County's economy, and all it took is a letter to make it happen, we'd be getting letters.
Yeah.
So if we did not have a process at all, I would potentially support this, but we have a process. It's not being utilized. It could easily be utilized if it really was going to help a business survive or move forward or expand or whatever it needs. So I don't see that it's going to accomplish much.
And we can see that perspective as well, given the frequency is currently 0.
Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, I would, I feel the reason there have not been any letters is because we have a terrible reputation amongst those folks out there that are doing business on a day-to-day basis, and it's become the norm that we're not going to give them a break. I don't think we ought to look at it that way. As long as we're not going to have any less dollars come in, we're just going to delay the collection of those dollars. As soon as word gets out, then we'll have a reputation of working with, trying to accommodate those individuals that are wanting to do a project in our community. One piece of that I was concerned about, Brett, you said something about during the COVID period, and I didn't know what that meant. I mean, are we sunsetting this, or is there a time frame on it? 6 months after I don't know, the president says it's over, or what's the deal?
I think the proposal is December 31st, 2021, correct?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm not sure that it is going to be over by then. And why wouldn't we want to just do this as a normal course of business and just make an adjustment to our process to help any individual? The portion that you mentioned about they're not going to get their occupancy permit, for an example, until this is paid, I think that is great. I don't like the idea of extortion of the public's money before they get any benefit from it. So they could put in and then they're paying a fee, and we've got their money hanging on to it for 2 years while their project is moving forward. I would feel it's much friendlier to the community that's requesting this to allow them to keep their money until they're paying for their last portion of that permit process at the end rather than at the beginning.
So the reason as to staff is proposing, if the board likes to continue with this approach of December 31st, 2021, is to learn the impacts. And at that point, certainly the board can extend that if we see actually a benefit. And because it's a blanket approach, I think it's prudent to see how that works, determine the impacts to county, if that is the direction of the board. And again, the board is in the position to extend that or make it a permanent after that sunset date.
Okay, makes sense.
But again, the question is, we like the staff to continue with this process to bring a formal revision for you to consider having a blanket approach to deferral impact fees.
I would.
So then we'll move forward on that.
Commissioner Menser?
I'm a sideways thumb on that, but it looks like you guys are going to move it.
Okay.
So you will see an actual code revision coming up in the near future.
Good, thank you. Thank you, Brent. Thank you, Josh.
Thank you.
Now we're moving into number 3, hiring exceptions. Discussion and decision.
Yeah, and every so often I like to bring you requests for those positions that have become vacant as part of your cost-cutting measures in relation to response to the impacts on the financial coffers of the county. You implement that hiring freeze. That you would like to exercise your due diligence in assessing requests on a case-by-case basis. So I try not to bring positions as they come along. I like to bring as a package every so often. So this is the next package for your consideration. I always attach the larger list just to give you a track on that, but I'm not going through that spreadsheet. Yeah, I'm just going to go through the positions listed on the agenda.
That's highlighted on this big sheet in yellow.
Yeah. So the positions highlighted on the agenda are the 3 positions that I would like you to consider lifting the hiring freeze. One is for the water resources planner. That is in Public Works. This position has become vacant here recently.
Yeah, we're done. We're good.
Okay.
Hey, Brett.
Hang on. Somebody
Brett,
mute yourself,
Brett,
please.
can you mute? There, thank you. Okay. And this utility planner is in the Public Works, and the main function of this position is integral to the development review of stormwater, water, and sewer related to any particular developments and applications proposed by the county, and also provides the oversight of the capital projects related to water and sewer in the county. So I believe that is a very important position. This is funded by the road fund and on the development fees. So my recommendations for you to consider lifting the hiring freeze. The next position is the survey party chief, also within Public Works. This is part of the survey crew. That when they go out and do survey assessments of the upcoming projects, and so as you can imagine, this is the busy season where they need full staffing to conduct their services. The next is from the prosecuting attorney's office. This is a paralegal one. And this position was vacated as part of the public records team. And there is two staff in that. That is the attorney, Karen Horowitz, and it was composed by Michael. I can't remember his last name. But he has moved on and he's going to be working for the city of Olympia. So when we have a team of two, the absence of one becomes extremely complicated when we need to respond to public records. And I believe, I hope you have determined that the public records unit is an essential part of our day-to-day business because we receive many public records requests on a daily basis. So those are the three positions for your consideration. And I will ask for your willingness to lift the hiring freeze for those three. Do we have any questions?
Romero, I have a question on the Public Works Survey Party Chief. It says HR approvers. Now, I'm going to guess it means approved, but why did HR approve?
What are you looking at the spreadsheet?
Yes.
I'm looking at the spreadsheet.
Yeah, this because we have a mechanism. The HR needs to be part of the decision-making process.
Oh, they do. Okay.
And that's what we have. So we go through this process just to make sure that HR is part of that request as well. Because I rely on their expertise as well.
Oh, yeah, and I get that. I didn't see HR approve any of these other ones. Just as the only one that spells out HR approved. Commissioner Menser, any questions or comments?
I'll defer.
Okay, Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, I guess, are we going to have a follow-up briefing having to do with revenue flow and such coming into the county? I mean, is the sky falling or not? And I'm kind of curious.
So you have scheduled a couple of budget work sessions. I think we have one this Thursday, and I don't know what they need to work with Robin as to what the agenda will be. But also we have scheduled day-long sessions when you start considering the 21-22 budget. And I believe at that point, the revenue component will be part of that discussion.
So, but on Thursday, we are going to have some discussion on that. Is that right?
I was not planning to talk about the revenue on Thursday.
What are we going to talk about then if we're not going to talk about revenue?
So on Thursday, I need your guidance on whether or not we're doing a biennial or an annual budget.
Yeah, related to the annual versus biannual budget, you had initial conversations with your director staff to send that survey. We have sent out the survey to elected officials, directors, and fiscal staff. Hopefully the results of that survey will be presented to you tomorrow. But also you requested to hear directly from elected officials as to how they see the benefits or not of having an annual versus biannual budget. So that conversation will occur tomorrow at noon. And the results of that conversation, as Robin has stated, will be vetted on Thursday morning.
Okay,
Robin,
I'm good with it.
Did I read that properly, your email, that 65 were surveyed and we received 15 responses?
That's correct.
I don't want to say it's pathetic, but it's apathetic, it seems, anyway. At first blush, when I read that, I was stunned. Okay, so I'm okay with that, with these three positions.
Myself,
thumbs up from all
yes,
three?
I am too.
Okay, there you go, Romero.
Thank you.
Yes. That takes us to number 4, public testimony.
I don't have any particular testimony. You have received letters from a citizen that I don't think is appropriate for me to answer at this point.
Okay,
it's
good.
related to elections, so that will be vetted on a different setting. So I will not be addressing those today. And I believe, let me text Elizabeth because she wanted to be part of this executive session.
While you're texting Elizabeth regarding the 2 executive sessions we're going to be moving into, is there any really hot burning topics that commissioners have that need to get out right now? Well, we have a minute. Nope, okay. Then I'll go ahead and give the advisement that we're moving into an executive session.
Yeah, so let me frame the 2, if I may, commissioners, just to make sure the public understands. The first one is related to a contract with TC Media, and you will have information related to that. The second executive session is related to commissioners' legal representation, and at that point, I will ask Commissioner Mason to recuse himself because the conversation will be surrounded Commissioner Mason.
Okay. So the Board of County Commissioners are going to move into an executive session pursuant to RCW 42.30.110 subsection 1 subsection D to review negotiations on the performance of publicly bid contracts when public knowledge regarding such consideration would cause a likelihood of increased costs. The TC Media contract, because Commissioner's action may follow. How long do you think that will be? That will last?
This will be probably 10 minutes.
10 minutes, okay.
Yeah, and the other one will be just about 10 minutes. So we should be able to get you out of here by noon.
So, can I give the executive session admonishment or warning for the number 7 as well at the same time, or do I have to do it separately?
If you can do both at the same time, that will be good. So, because we will not be able to come back on the live feed after the.
Here we go. So the next one is executive session pursuant to RCW 42.30.110 subsection 1 subsection I to discuss with legal counsel representing the agency litigation or potential litigation, commissioner legal representation, and commissioner's action may follow. And that will be about 10 minutes. So we should be done by noon. If there's going to be any commissioner action, we'll come back. But other than that, we're done. Thank you for joining, and we're signing out.
Yeah, give me just a minute just to make sure.